Wow, Jeff, Greenmount Cemetery here in Montpelier, Vermont is huge.
Yeah, I know.
What, or maybe I should say who, are we looking for?
No, I think you were right the first time, Ray. I think this legend counts more as a what than a who.
Ooh, I'm intrigued. I take it we're not talking about some innocuous ghost.
No, we're not. We're looking for Black Agnes. And if the stories we heard are true, this legend could kill you. I'm Jeff Belanger.
And I'm Ray Auger, and welcome to episode 58 of the New England Legends podcast. If you give us about 10 minutes, we'll give you something strange to talk about today.
We will.
We're on a mission to chronicle every legend in New England 1 week and one story at a time. And we want you to come along.
We do. We have a website.
That's right, OurNewEnglandLegends.com.
A super secret Facebook group.
I'm not telling you where it is.
Come on.
But I bet you could find a link on our website.
All right. And we want to send a special shout out to our Patreon patrons who help keep us growing and going. If you go to patreon.com/New England Legends, for as little as $3 per month, you can get early access to new episodes, bonus episodes no one else gets to hear, and more than anything, you become a bigger part of this movement to chronicle every legend in New England.
Worth every penny. A big thank you to everyone who has been supporting us so far. 58 episodes in 58 weeks, and we're going strong.
Not bad.
All right, Jeff. What are we looking for here in Greenmount Cemetery?
As you can see, Ray, there are many graves here, but only one features the statue of Black Agnes.
All right, how do we find this statue? This hillside has to have like thousands of graves.
It does, but this grave stands out. Not only is it one of the largest monuments, it's also the creepiest. Let's head up that hill over there.
All right, without ever being here before, I think I see what we're looking for right over there.
Yeah, that's it. It kind of makes you pause, doesn't it?
It does. There are some stone steps that lead up to a rectangular slab that covers the tomb.
Right.
In the back is this stone quarter circle, kind of a bow that forms an arc around the back of this monument.
Right.
There's stone wreaths and a poem engraved back there. But sitting in the middle of the arc, right at the head of the stone slab, is this life-size bronze statue. And this is the part that really gives me the creeps.
That's Black Agnes.
She's sitting on a bronze bench, wrapped in this flowing bronze cloth that covers part of her head and most of her body.
Yeah.
But her right shoulder and arm are exposed. Her face is turned upward and to the left, in a look of total distraught sorrow.
Some say her eyes glow at midnight,
Ooh.
and if you look into them, you're cursed.
Ugh.
Others say if you dare to sit in her lap, you'll die within 7 days.
Okay.
Or at the very least, bad luck will befall you within a week.
All right, that's pretty heavy.
Yeah.
I do see one other thing on this monument. The name John E. Hubbard is embossed at the foot of the tomb. Who was John E. Hubbard?
Hubbard was a Montpelier businessman who was born in 1847. He was a successful guy in real estate and other business dealings, and by the time of his death in 1899, not only was he the single biggest taxpayer in town, but he was absolutely despised.
Despised?
Yeah, locals hated him.
But wait a minute. Isn't there a public park in the town called Hubbard Park?
There is.
I read that Hubbard Park is almost 200 acres of land that features picnic areas, hiking trails,
Yep.
a stone tower that offers a gorgeous view of Vermont's state capital, and all of this sits on land donated by John E. Hubbard.
That's right.
And still the locals hated him? He gave them a park.
I know.
All right, wait again.
Okay.
When we pulled into the cemetery, didn't we pass Hubbard Chapel at the main gate?
We did.
It was this John E. Hubbard who donated the funds to build that?
That's also true.
All right, wait a third time.
Okay, now what?
The library in town, it's called Kellogg Hubbard Library.
That it is.
All right, I did some research on this and learned that the Hubbard half of the name comes from the same John E. Hubbard, who you say is so despised, and who is buried right here where we're standing. Hubbard's money built that library.
All true.
How could a guy who donates a huge public park, a chapel, and a public library be so hated?
The library is the centerpiece of this local historical soap opera, Ray. It's the reason that today Hubbard's grave is said to carry the curse of the Black Agnes.
All right, I think we should head over to the library and check that out. Well, this is a stately building here on Main Street in Montpelier, with a granite facade and an ornate cornice around the roof.
Yeah.
The Kellogg Hubbard Library could easily pass for a courthouse or a city hall.
It's a gorgeous building for sure. The kind of building one constructs with other people's money. Let's go inside. All of the drama surrounding John Hubbard's poor reputation at the end of his life has to do with this building. And it all began in 1889 when New York City real estate magnate Martin M. Kellogg died of a heart attack. Kellogg was born and raised in Barre, Vermont, and married Miss Fanny M. Hubbard from here in Montpelier. Fanny passed away just 3 months after her husband. But before their deaths, the couple agreed to donate $300,000 to the city of Montpelier with the stipulation that they construct two things. $55,000 was to be used to erect an ornate chapel and gates for Greenmount Cemetery, and the rest of the money was to be used to construct a public library.
$300,000 is a lot of money in those days.
Yeah, for sure.
And as you can imagine, the people of Montpelier were thrilled. But then came the trouble.
Trouble in the form of?
Well, trouble in the form of Johnny Hubbard, Fanny's nephew. John Hubbard contested his aunt's will after signatories to Fanny's will testified they didn't realize that they were signing a will.
Okay.
John Hubbard's lawsuit was successful, and a judge declared Fanny's will void, meaning John Hubbard would get the money set aside for the city.
But that wasn't the end of the story. Montpelier countersued, and that tied the money and the will up for 3 years in the probate courts.
And it was ugly.
No one likes to lose a fortune, least of all a municipality. The locals all took sides. Some supported John Hubbard, but most supported the city. There were nasty accusations of Hubbard offering city officials bribes and other favors to make this all go away. Finally, John agreed to build a library in Montpelier. In 1894, he gave $30,000 to the city to construct this building.
That doesn't seem like a lot considering the city was going to get $245,000 for the library.
I agree, and I guess John Hubbard felt a little more generous when he realized this library was also going to bear his name, so he upped his contribution to $60,000.
Still, I'm guessing that still doesn't make the townfolk very happy.
No, they did the math and saw quite a bit of a shortfall. And that resentment doesn't just disappear even after this new library opened January 2nd, 1896. John Hubbard passed away just a few years later in 1899 at the age of 51. But locals, they never forgave him.
He spent the rest of his life trying to find public redemption.
He did, and even part of his afterlife when you consider his will. He bequeathed another $125,000 to the Kellogg Hubbard Library, which was used to expand their hours and their collection. He left $25,000 for the Gate and Chapel at Greenmount Cemetery. He donated over 100 acres of land for Hubbard Park, plus $50,000 to fix up the land and maintain it.
And he reserved $10,000 for the construction of his elaborate monument at Greenmount Cemetery. Let's head back over there.
Okay.
All right, I want to take a closer look at the grave.
This memorial was designed by a guy named Karl Bitter. He was the celebrated Austrian sculptor back then. Hubbard's estate wanted to convey the message that John was a human. He was often misunderstood, and he did his best to give to others and redeem his good name.
You know, you can really see the anguish in the face of this sculpture.
You can.
This is a tormented soul. But how did the sculpture get the name Black Agnes?
That's the most interesting part of the story to me. But first, take a closer look at the statue, Ray.
Okay, I am.
Does the statue look like a woman?
You know, now that you mention it, not really.
Yeah.
Though the face seems to have feminine features.
Right.
The statue has no breasts.
Right.
And the one exposed arm and shoulder has muscle definition, more like a man.
The statue actually has a name. It's Thanatos, which is the Greek word for death. The statue is of a man. I'm assuming the name of the statue comes from the poem epitaph at the back of this monument. The poem is by William Cullen Bryant. He wrote it in 1817, and it's called Thanatopsis, which is Greek for thoughts on death.
Okay.
The epitaph reads, "Thou go not like the quarry slave at night, scourged to his dungeon, but sustained and soothed by an unfaltering trust. Approach thy grave like one who wraps the drapery of his couch about him and lies down to pleasant dream."
This is a perfectly airy setting for a legend.
There are stories of Montpelier teens who came here to test this legend and sit in the lap of Black Agnes. In one version, 3 teenagers all sat in the statue's lap one night, and then all 3 made it home safely. But within a week, one died in a car accident. Another died from drowning when his canoe capsized, and the third broke his leg.
Wow. That's like getting off with a warning.
I guess so.
So I did some digging and learned that there are multiple Black Agnes graves.
Okay.
The most famous originated in Baltimore, Maryland.
Huh.
Now that statue looks similar to the one here in Montpelier. It's also seated, also covered in some kind of shroud, and you can't tell if it's a man or a woman.
Okay.
That statue marked the grave of Union Civil War General Felix Agnes, who died in 1925.
Huh.
In this case, Agnes is spelled Agnus.
Okay.
This unique grave caught the interest of legend trippers and college fraternities and sororities who used to make their pledges sit in the lap of Black Agnes.
Right.
It became such a problem that the statue portion of Agnes's grave was moved to Washington, D.C., but it seems the fate of the legend was already sealed.
So now graves with statues like these become known as Black Agnes, most often spelled Agnes,
Right.
like the woman's name. And when you add in a troubled backstory like that of Johnny Hubbard, you have a legend that continues to grow.
And I think it's worth noting that Hubbard's grave in Montpelier predates General Agnes by 26 years.
Huh.
Yeah. So maybe this is the original, at least when it comes to the style of the statue, if you think about it.
Yeah, good point. So tell me this, Ray. Would you dare sit on the lap of Black Agnes and risk dying within the next 7 days?
Yeah, well, I don't think so.
And that's the power of a legend. As silly as it all sounds, you'd just rather not risk it and sit on the lap of Thanatos.
I think the other part of this legend serves to honor the dead in some way.
What do you mean?
Well, this legend reminds you to respect, maybe even fear the dead.
Okay.
In this case, John Hubbard. Sitting on the grave or desecrating it in any way is a taboo and should probably stay that way. I'm glad Black Agnes is here to remind us that.
If you want to see pictures of this spooky grave or historic photos of John Hubbard, visit our website at ournewenglandlegends.com and click on episode 58. You can also see spooky Frank Grace photos of the grave in my brand new 2019 Haunted New England Wall Calendar, and you can also find out how to get one from our website.
We also want to remind all of our legendary listeners to please share these podcasts with your friends and post reviews on iTunes.
Please.
It goes a long way in others discovering our show and spreading the good word.
Our theme music, of course, is by John Judd.
Until next time, remember, the bizarre is closer than you think.